Yavapai Broadcasting and the City of Cottonwood proudly present Inside Cottonwood, an inside look at the decisions and issues of the City of Cottonwood. Brought to you by Arizona Smile Designers. Here's Cottonwood City Manager Doug Bartosh.
Hello, and welcome to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Doug Bartosh, and I'm also your city manager. I'm here today with a couple of folks from Adopt for Life Animal Center, and the president of the board, Kayla Allen, and then Ellen, you must hold a position on the board too.
Treasurer.
Okay, and it's Ellen Yates.
Yes.
Okay, and you know, I don't know if everybody knows the history where the shelter has been since you've kind of taken over as president, Kayla. So why don't you talk a little bit about, you know, when it started, where you've been, and kind of what you guys have been able to accomplish.
I sure
Oh, you know,
will.
and I forgot to introduce Sweetie.
This is Sweetie. You see Sweetie's sweet face.
Now, Sweetie has been adopted.
She's got adoption papers on her. Sweetie was found as a stray. We know Sweetie was owned because her nails were polished, but nobody has come to claim her. Nobody's called. So we'll keep Sweetie for another day or two, and then we'll go ahead and give her to that person that wants her. If Sweetie was chipped, we'd know who she went to and be able to give them a call. But because she's not, we just take care of her and give her to another family. And if they ever come to us, well, that's something we'll have to deal with at the time if the original owner comes to us. But she needs to go to a nice, happy home, and we have an adopter already waiting in the wings, wanting her very badly.
Good. She seems like a sweetie.
She is a sweetie.
Now, she also looks very familiar to the dog that was in Men in Black.
She is.
And
she's a pug.
I think in that movie, the dog was actually an alien, so hopefully Sweetie's not of that persuasion, particularly with her painted toenails.
Yeah. Some of the noises she makes are a little alien, so I don't know.
Anyway, let's go back to where have you guys been over the last couple of years?
Last couple of years, Ellen and I came on the board about 18 months ago, about a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit less. At that time, the shelter was quite struggling. It had just lost its executive director of 6 or 7 years. The board had split up, and the shelter was about $70,000 in debt. So all new board came on with the exception of the staff veterinarian. And we worked very hard over the last year to reduce that debt. And that's a very hard thing to do because we have easily just $16,000 in operational payroll every month. So you have to break that net, and you're trying to reduce this debt and keep operations going. So we reduced that by half, which is great. Of course, it's not enough. We still need to get the rest of that down. And we've done that through some adoption events, through some really great fundraisers, which we'll go into detail about here in a minute. And of course, the public has really stepped up in several instances. Like most recently, when I wrote a letter to the Verde Independent and Journal Extra, telling how we were struggling. We really needed some help. And within a 10-day period, we had... I'm sorry, she's snoring. She's cracking me up.
My wife would say she sounds like me.
Exactly. We had about $7,000 in donations in a 10-day period.
Oh,
so
that's great.
The public in the Verde Valley really stepped up to the plate for that. So.
Well, and certainly this is an animal community that does really support the animals and also the shelter. So that's good news. Now, you also moved the thrift shop.
We did. You want to speak a little bit on that?
Yes, we were able to move the Paw Boutique to Old Town Cottonwood, and it's a great location, and they've been doing wonderful there. And we have a new manager at the shelter, Brian, and he's been doing a great job. So, and they're busy. The only thing that we could use down there are more volunteers because it is run on besides Brian, it's all a volunteer basis. And we also have an assistant manager, Nancy, too, who's there during the day. But they really are looking for more volunteers to work there. And they do help to support the shelter. If it wasn't for them, we would really be in dire straits.
And people, I assume, can donate items and
Yes.
and also come down and purchase items.
Yes, they
from
can.
the Paws. Is it called Paws Boutique?
The Paw Boutique.
Paw.
And it's open on same hours that the shelter basically is open, which is, actually no, it's
A little
open more.
longer, yeah.
It's open Monday through Saturday from 10 to 4 every day. And they take donations. Always love to get furniture because that you can get a little bit more money from. But we take just about everything. And we actually have a really good relationship going with the Mission for those items that we really can't use because we try to do the high-end, more boutique kind of items. The Mission is right there and takes them, and we do have this nice give and take relationship with them, which is really nice.
Good. You know, and and certainly I got to put a plug in for the city here. The city actually provided the building. It's certainly not a pretty building. In fact, it's pretty old, but it does provide space at a real reasonable rent. I think we worked out a deal for $1 a year or something like that.
I'll break the bank.
Yes,
And again,
thank goodness.
I think it's important that people understand the reason the city does this is because if you guys weren't there, if the shelter wasn't operated by Adopt a Life, the city would have to operate it. And so this is really the most effective and really most efficient way to run the shelter with people who really are dedicated to it and volunteer a lot of hours and make it a great center for that reason. So, you know, it's win-win for everybody, it seems.
It is. It really is.
So I know one of the things, I mean, you've done a lot of different events over the last couple of years too to try and raise money, and talk a little bit about those events and what worked good for you and what we'll see continue and maybe some that'll kind of go by the wayside.
I'll tell you what's coming up real quick. We've got one event coming up that's called Spaghetti and Meatballs. It's a spay and neuter fundraiser event. That's going to be happening at the Cottonwood Recreation Center on February 16th. So it's a good Valentine's Day dinner for your honey. Spaghetti and breads and salads and all that good stuff, and all the funds that we get. Tickets are only $10 each or $5 for children under 12. All the funds go to a spay-neuter fund, so we can get all the animals. It's required that all the animals that leave our shelter be spayed and neutered. And also we're going to assist the efforts of a trap, neuter, and release group that's forming in Cottonwood, so we can get some of those colonies, non-producing colonies out there. So we reduce the stray cat population, which is pretty significant.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, talk about some of the other events that you've held as well.
Now, what's the motorcycle event called?
Cruising for the Critters.
Cruising for the Critters. Last year was our first year. It's going to be. We're going to have it again. Cruising for the Critters is a motorcycle event that. About when did we have it?
April.
April, which we'll have it again this year. Great. We had a lot of people show up. It's a motorcycle cruise, and all the funding again goes to the shelter. We had T-shirts, and vendors came out and hawked their wares, and we had a lot of nonprofit groups out there with their little booths, and it was a great fun event. Had music. That was the first year for that. So what we've got is a lot of first-year events this last year.
We also had a lot of local businesses sponsor the event, so they could buy a sponsorship for the event to help raise the money to put the event on, because it does cost a lot for us to actually put the fundraiser on. We have to buy the T-shirts and marketing, getting radio spots and the ads in the newspaper and all that. So we do need the money for things like that. So
when you've got a big event like that,
yeah, it's a huge event.
We have Wet Nose Wednesday, which is put on by Julie Shoup each year. This was our second year, and this happens in Old Town, and it's only a few hours on a Wednesday in the middle of the week in October and November. October's a busy month. And this last year we made, they brought us in over $6,000 in a 3 or 4 year period, or 3 or 4 hour period. And they had a silent auction, a raffle, stuff the bathing suit when they have a puppy fake costume and somebody's wearing a bathing suit, and people are giving their donations that way. It was just a really fun event. Plus there was wine tasting. It was at the Riot. Don't know
I
if
think you've done that for 2 years.
2 years. The first year we made 4,000. This next almost 4. This time we made over 6, and so it just keeps increasing exponentially. And that's one of those events where we actually don't put out a lot of money. The Rendezvous in Old Town actually sponsors a lot of the space and the advertising, and then we just get people that want to donate items for our raffle or for our silent auction, and we really didn't have a lot of overhead for that, so that's almost all profit. And I have to sing Julie Shoup's praises because she's the one that really put it together.
Good.
And she's done it both years, and we'll do it again this year.
Well, let's go ahead and take our first break, and then we'll come back and talk about the operation of the center and how that's going. Come back and join us.
Hello, everybody. I am Lou Ann Patterson. My family and I would like to welcome you to the Copper Star Indoor Shooting Range, Northern Arizona's premier shooting sports facility. We offer a 25-yard pistol range, a 50-yard archery range, and Arizona's only 100-yard indoor rifle range. In addition, we have a full-line gun shop as well as an archery pro shop. Come check us out. We're located at Highway 260 and Cherry Road, right next to Out of Africa. Looking forward to seeing you all.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Doug Bartosh, and I'm here today with a couple of people from the Adopt a Life Center, Animal Center, and I'm here with the president, Kayla, and the treasurer, Ellen. And talk about how is the operation of the center going? Because I know you had some challenges, and you're slowly but surely overcoming them.
We do. It seems like, I think most shelters get this up and down roller coaster thing that we have. Right now, our biggest challenge, besides funding, of course, is our executive director took a position. He was on the Prescott side of the mountain, so he took a position on that side, which I understand completely. So we're looking for a new executive director. We're in the process right now. We just hired a new shelter manager. We were without a shelter manager for a little while, and she was actually our animal technician, and she stepped up to the plate quite nicely when we were without. She seems to be real responsible, so we're real excited about that. We have a full staff right now, so staff-wise we're doing very well, real attentive. It's, as you can imagine, cleaning dog kennels, etc. is not the most glamorous job, so when you can get people in there that really love the animals and don't mind that, it's wonderful. Operationally, as we were saying, always it's a struggle, like for every nonprofit right now. I think that lives on the donations of the public. It's kind of a struggle this time of year and in this economy. So we do reach out continually, looking for that help.
You know, and I think that's probably a big part of your need is a lot of volunteers too.
Always.
Yeah, one of the things the volunteers do, they're dog walkers. We have a few dog walkers, and they can always use more dog walkers because there's times where our shelter is full, and we have, I think right now we have 47 dogs at the shelter, besides our 107 cats. So the dog walkers have their hands full. If you only have like 4 of them working and trying to walk 47 dogs to get them all out for a little while during the day, it's difficult. And they also take on the responsibility of showing the animals to the public for adoption. When somebody comes in and they want to see a dog, they know the personalities of the dogs and how they are, so they can actually place them better than other people can, because they know, you know, what that animal is like and how they would be with a family, or if they can't be with kids or they can't be with cats. They know all that, so they're a big help in that area too.
Okay. And then what is the capacity of the shelter? I mean, how many animals do you have, or I guess what's the maximum number what you could have up there.
We have about 54 kennels for dogs, so we can have about 54 big dogs. Then when we get little dogs like Sweetie in, she actually goes into a kennel inside crate, is what they're called, inside the shelter, because the environment's too rough for a little dog. And sometimes when you put them in with a bunch of big barking dogs, it has a negative effect on their little psyche. So we bring them inside. So 54 outside or in the top kennels. And then cats, what was our maximum? We have maximum, I think we had 130 cats during cat season. And we had them inside. We had them everywhere, and that's rough because what happens is you have a kitty season where all the cats are out breeding, all the feral cats are out, and people are bringing them in, and we can't really turn those away. And kittens are easily adoptable, so we just keep taking them in, and there's so many. There's so many. You just when a member of the public has a cat they want to bring to us, it's harder for us to take it because we know they're being taken care of right now. Between taking that and a cat that's just been brought in by our animal control officer that needs some care, sometimes we have to tell them, can you please hold on to that cat while we take care of these.
And we have actually 3 cats right now that we've actually had in the shelter for a year.
Wow.
So we do our best to place them, but they've become...
we don't want them to be long-term residents, right?
Yeah, we don't want them to be long-term residents, but if necessary, they do stay there. So,
and I think it kind of brings up the importance of people taking the responsibility to get their animals spayed and neutered.
Definitely.
Because it obviously puts a real burden on you guys to be taking in all these unwanted kitties that people don't want, or unwanted dogs that people don't want, and we do have, there are some opportunities for some fairly reasonable spay and neuter, I guess, clinics, and can you tell the people about that and where they would go to find these kind of services?
I can give you a little bit of information. Usually a veterinarian will have some information for you as well. But Morningstar Animal Clinic is the newest clinic in the Verde Valley. I can't tell you the exact location. It's not on my tip of my tongue. But they are a spay-neuter clinic. That is their entire focus. And they're working on fundraising right now, and they're going to work with local animal shelters to get our animals and get strays spayed and neutered. But if I was to push anybody right now, that would be the organization, because that is their sole goal, is to get animals spayed and neutered.
So I know one of the other things that you guys have worked on pretty significantly is not having to euthanize animals. I mean, is that something that you've been able to accomplish? I know you've reduced it quite a bit. Have you been able to eliminate it at this point?
I feel we have. That's why we've had 3 cats that have been there for a year. We're not going to euthanize them because we can't place them. We'll keep trying and do our best, and they'll stay with us until we find a home for them. Because we have the room right now, and we really don't want to have to do anything like that to make room. We try to work with other shelters to move a dog that hasn't been adopted or an animal into another area where that type of dog might be more popular. Like a cattle dog or something would go to another area. But right now we have, I believe, 15 pit bulls in our shelter, so they're a little bit harder to place.
Beautiful dogs, beautiful animals, all of them
beautiful.
good temperaments, but they do have that stigma that they have to work past.
And I know I've been up at the shelter, and it seems like, at least since I've been up here, which has been probably the last 6-7 years, that seems to be predominantly what you see among the dogs is various kind of pit bulls or pit bull mix.
Well, there's so many mixes that make up a pit bull too, so I think it's kind of hard to tell.
And again, it just seems so important to take that step and get your dog spayed or neutered, because you end up with creating these animals that potentially people don't want, and what do you do with them?
Well, I'd like to say too, one of the things that we've taken on ourselves at the shelter is actually spaying and neutering the pets before we adopt them, and we don't charge for that. That's the service that we pay for at the shelter. And I know when I first adopted my dogs from this shelter 5 years ago, I had to do that. It was a responsibility of the person purchasing the animal had to also pay for the spay and neuter. But we do that now, so we're making sure that these animals are spay and neuter before they leave us, and that'll be all taken care of on our part.
And I try to encourage people to come to the shelter if you're interested in a dog. Come to the shelter and look, instead of buying them from a puppy factory or somebody around the corner who's overbreeding a small dog like this over and over again so they can get the money from having these puppies out there. You reduce that if there's no market for it. So come to your local shelter and find a good puppy.
And I imagine you've seen quite a bit of Chihuahuas over the last couple of years.
We get a lot of Chihuahuas, and it's rough because a lot of them aren't fixed, and you know exactly what's going on. They're being used as little puppy mills. My daughter recently got a teacup Chihuahua that you can tell she's been bred, and it's very hard on teacups to have puppies. So she's just now recovering and getting strength back and getting some meat on her bones from having been overbred.
Yeah, I saw that puppy. She was cute, but definitely really
skinny.
Yeah. Well, let's take our next break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about, get down to the nitty-gritty of the finances and what we need to do to make you guys just as successful as possible. Okay. So come back and help us here.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Well, welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm Doug Bartosh, your host, and we're here with Ellen and Kayla from Adopt a Life Center for Animals. And we've been talking about the center and getting it up and operating and making it successful as possible and trying not to euthanize animals and getting people to adopt. And we talked a little bit about some of the revenues in terms of fundraisers and the thrift store. But let's get down to the bottom line. You know, what does it cost to operate the center every year? And I know some of the resources you depend on are cities like Cottonwood or Clarkdale that bring captured animals to you.
Right.
And we pay a fee for that. And I think the city also donates a significant amount of money to the shelter. But, you know, what does it take in just ballpark terms to make the center run a year?
From $1, it takes about $300,000 to make the shelter run. Okay. When you're talking every bit of your high overhead electric bills, because you want the heat and the cooling for the animals. Water bills. We have high water bills all the time because we clean those kennels every single day. And part of that is food, operations, part of that is medical. It's the medicine that keeps the animals healthy. It's the ones that, if we have a caliche virus, which we had a cat virus outbreak in one of our kennels, and you separate them, you put the cats on IVs, it's almost like a parvo for cats. And because we don't automatically put them down, we're pouring money into those cats that we're definitely never going to see again because they don't get that much money back. But we want those cats to be out there and alive and live through it. So it's not a cheap operation, but we're not flaunting our money either.
We also have the same costs of running a business like every other business does. We have workman's comp insurance, liability insurance, things like that that are really expensive that we still have to pay and try to still take care of all the animals and pay our staff. So it's difficult.
And then, you know, when you talk about donations, I mean, certainly volunteer hours we talked about, but I know you got a big donation of food at one point.
Yes.
Actually, Purina has been wonderful. Correct, Purina?
Yes, Purina in
They
Flagstaff.
actually donated 6 months worth of dog and cat food to us. Wonderful. We had to take a big semi truck out there to bring all the food back. And they've been very supportive. They've done that twice for us, and we're hoping they'll continue to do that every 6 months. It doesn't pay for kitten and puppy food. You can't feed the same food to ill animals and things. So again, we go out and we purchase those items for the animals, and we get a lot of donations for those items. We really appreciate when we get puppy and kitten food, soft and hard. It's wonderful.
And it is nice to get one type of dog food, like Purina. We get one type of dog food that we're feeding them all, so they stay on an even, you know, a regular diet. So we're not changing constantly to make it more difficult to care for them and clean their crates and things.
And I know recently you did kind of put out a plea for help, and how's that situation going? I mean, is it?
We're actually doing much better.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little scary there for us when you're looking at the bottom dollar and trying to make pay those bills and then make your payroll. We don't like to see it get that tight, and it just happened to get that tight. But as I said, when we sent out the plea via some newspaper articles and some Christmas cards, and people responded quickly. And I want to mention that a lot of shelters have those few very large donors that give on a regular basis, and those large donors really support the shelters, and our shelter doesn't have that. We have a lot of little donors, which we love, but we do need those coming in on a regular basis, not just once a year, because we operate year-round.
And we will be sending out another plea shortly to local corporations and businesses to see if we can get some help from them also, besides our residents and our animal lovers that already donate. So this is not unusual for a shelter then that's kind of run as a nonprofit.
Anything that you survive on the donations of others is going to have these rough, scary times, and then these very secure times. Because you change, your donors change, they move, they go somewhere else, and they donate to the location that they've moved to, that you may have had a regular donor for 15 years that gives you $5,000 a month for 15 years, and then they move and they've got a new love, and that's just part of being a nonprofit.
The other nice thing too that we've been lucky to receive money from is people leave money in a trust for us after they pass. So we do have a couple of those, which is a great help for people to do that for us. We appreciate that so much.
And obviously the other thing is if you get people in adopting dogs fairly regularly, I mean, that certainly would cut down on your expenses if you can lower the population inside the center.
Always brings down those costs, and we know these guys are in happy homes if you come in and get a puppy or a kitten from us. And we actually had a 2-for-1 kitten offer going for quite a while there to reduce our cat population, and people love it because they'll get one cat and then they have an automatic buddy, so that they keep each other busy, and it works out very well. And we're not in that to make the money. We want that animal to go to a good home.
Good home.
We adopted out 10 this past weekend, 10 cats. So we were great. 10 of them was nice.
So what is the process for adoption?
It's very easy. You come in, you take a look at your animal, which animals you like, you see if we've got what you want. Filling out the paperwork is very quick and easy, but there is a quick interview process. We want to know if you have a fenced yard, if you're going to have a dog, if the cat's going to be inside. It costs about $80 for a dog and about $45 for a cat. If it's a senior animal, the price is reduced by half, because we know you may only have that dog for 5 or 6 years, and we understand that you're taking a senior animal with you. So we do reduce the cost for that.
Okay. And then what does it cost?
The final cost at the shelter, I believe, is going to be the adoption fee, and what else is there? I think it's just the adoption fee at this point. It used to be we had a whole other bunch of costs in there
we don't
before our tenure. But now because we pay for the spay and neuter, that's not passed on to you. It's typically just the adoption cost. And then, of course, you have to understand that once you get an animal, you have the responsibility of the feeding and taking them to the vet and walking them in. And you have further costs after that, some responsibilities. But coming at the shelter, it's about between $80 and $55.
Yeah, because we pay for the spay and neutering and the shots. They get their vaccinations
and the first doctor visit.
Right. Okay. First doctor.
Good. Well, we're out of time, but I do want to thank you for coming down and thank you and your entire staff for the great work you do, because I've certainly seen the commitment. I see it from Kayla every day. So this is really a worthwhile project and a worthwhile endeavor, and certainly we really do hope that the community supports you, which it sounds like they do, and keep it going, because you guys obviously have the right idea in terms of how the center should be operated with the best interest of the animals at heart. And in closing, again, I just remind people, be sure and get your dogs spayed and neutered, so we're not having to, take on more burden by taking on animals who really were not wanted, and help us out. Anyway, thanks for joining us on Inside Cottonwood, and we look forward to seeing you next time.